Hi guys and welcome to Crazy Pepper Revenge. This channel is all about crazy true stories, stuff that happens in real life when things get a little bit messy, people dealing with drama, cheating, lies, breakups, and even revenge. Some stories are wild, some are emotional, but all of them will keep you watching. If you like real talk and real situations, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stick around. This is Crazy Pepper Revenge, where the stories get spicy.
So this happened to me a few months ago, and I'm still processing everything. Long story, but I need to get this out there. I'm Tim, 28, been married to my wife Candace, 26, for 5 years. We were trying to start a family and things seemed good between us. I work in IT for this company run by Jake Hudson, who I thought was a friend. Jake has a son, Mike, who's around our age and also works for the company. About 3 months ago, we all went on a company camping trip. Me, Candace, Jake, Mike, and a few other colleagues. It was supposed to be team building or whatever. Everything seemed normal during the trip, but when we got back home, I noticed Candace acting different. She was distant, irritable, like her mind was somewhere else. Then I found something in her underwear when we were doing laundry. Without getting too graphic, let's just say there was evidence that she'd been intimate with someone who wasn't me. My world basically collapsed in that moment. I knew something was very wrong, but I needed proof. I ended up consulting a divorce lawyer named Ruby Hawkins, who recommended hiring a private investigator. This was right before I had to leave for a 3-day business trip to California. The timing couldn't have been worse, but maybe it was actually perfect for gathering evidence. Before I left, the investigator had me install tracking software on Candace's phone and gave me some recording devices. I hated doing it, but I had to know the truth. The first night I was away, Candace told me she was working as a waitress for some emergency party at Jake's house. She said one of the regular staff got sick and Jake asked her to fill in for $150. I thought it was weird that Jake didn't mention this to me, but I didn't say anything. That's when everything went to hell. The investigator started sending me updates and photos. Candace had spent the night at Jake's house and was very busy the night before. The photos were graphic. My wife with Jake, with Mike, with other guys from the company I thought were my friends. Multiple men in group situations. I literally threw up when I saw them. I tried calling her, but she wouldn't answer. The tracking showed her phone was still at Jake's house the next day, too. More photos came in showing even more disturbing scenes with Jake, his son Mike, and random guys. I couldn't believe this was the same woman I'd been married to for 5 years. When I got back from California early with a signed contract worth millions for the company, I went straight to see my lawyer. I was done. Candace was still at Jake's when I got home, so I had time to plan my next moves. I called an old contact, John Carlson, who'd been trying to recruit me for years. I'd always been loyal to Jake, but that loyalty was obviously misplaced. John offered me a job starting immediately with better pay and benefits. His wife, Rose, is a counselor, and they both offered to help me through this mess. When Candace finally came home, she lied straight to my face about where she'd been. Said she was home catching up, when I knew for a fact she was still at Jake's. I told her I wasn't feeling well and would sleep in the guest room. She seemed confused but didn't push it. The next morning, I went to the office with my resignation letter and the signed California contract. When Jake saw me packing up my stuff, he came in asking what was wrong. I told him I knew everything and was done. You know what this piece of garbage said to me? He basically admitted everything and said Candace willingly engaged with him and that I should just go with the flow and let her explore her desires. He even told me the first time was during the camping trip while I was out water skiing. Candace had initiated it in our tent, telling him he was superior to me. Then when he sent me away on some fake errand, they used that time to be together. The waitressing gig was just another setup to get her over to his place. I secretly recorded this whole conversation. Jake had no idea I was gathering evidence. I took my stuff and left, telling him to rot in hell. That afternoon, the divorce papers were served. I had everything ready. Time-stamped photos, videos, audio recordings of phone calls between Candace and Jake that I'd recorded. When I confronted her with the evidence, she completely broke down. I told her I was filing for divorce on grounds of infidelity, and she had until the papers were served to pack her stuff and get out. The whole conversation was brutal. She kept asking for forgiveness and wanting to try counseling, but I was done. How do you come back from something like this? She'd been with multiple men, including my boss and his son, in group situations. No protection either, which meant she could have gotten pregnant or caught something. She finally admitted it started on the second day of the camping trip. She was in our tent, undressed, when Jake walked in. Instead of telling him to leave, she let him expose himself, and that was it. Just like that, 5 years of marriage meant nothing. The restraining order meant she had to stay 500 feet away from me, my home, and workplace. Her parents came to get the rest of her stuff, and when I showed them the photos, they were horrified. They had no idea it was that bad. A few days later, Jake and Mike showed up at my apartment with 2 other guys, trying to intimidate me. They forced their way in and threatened me, but I had my tool ready and called 911. The cops arrested all 4 of them for violating the restraining order. The divorce went through smoothly since Candace didn't contest it. But I also filed alienation of affection lawsuits against Jake and the others. Most got dismissed, but the case against Jake was different. The judge was disgusted by what he'd done, exploiting someone who considered him a friend, abusing his authority as my employer to deliberately destroy my marriage. Jake was ordered to pay me $1 million in restitution. The judge said his behavior was utterly reprehensible and absolutely despicable. Word spread about the lawsuit, and Jake's business tanked as clients didn't want to work with someone who actively tried to wreck another man's marriage. I started working at Empire and found it much better than working for Jake. I also started weekly counseling with Rose, joined a gym, took martial arts classes, and got my life back on track. I refused to date anyone until the final divorce decree came through. A few months after everything was finalized, I got a call from Candace's mother. Candace had tested positive for HIV. I wasn't surprised given what I'd seen in those photos. Multiple partners, no protection. Her mother asked if I'd talk to her one last time. When I went to see her, she looked terrible, gaunt and sick. She finally took full responsibility for what she'd done and apologized sincerely. She admitted she could have said no at any point, but chose not to. For the first time, she acknowledged how her actions had devastated me and others. I decided to forgive her, not for her sake, but for mine. Rose had taught me that holding grudges wouldn't help me move forward. Candace seemed genuinely remorseful and told me she wanted me to find someone I could love and trust, get married, and have kids. She also mentioned that Jake had become very abusive since losing the court case and his business falling apart. She was planning to tell him about her HIV diagnosis, and I could tell she was scared. A couple weeks later, I was watching the evening news when I saw a report about a double homicide self-destruction. Jake had shot Candace, then his son Mike, then himself. According to police, autopsies showed Jake and Mike were also HIV positive. Apparently, Candace had told Jake about her diagnosis and suggested they all get tested. When Jake found out he and his son were also infected, he snapped. I felt terrible for Candace's parents losing their only child, even though she'd made her own choices. The whole situation was just tragic. Lives destroyed over momentary pleasure and selfishness. I took time off for Candace's memorial service to support her parents. A few days later, a colleague named Cynthia invited me out for happy hour. I almost said no, but then decided it was time to start living again. As I was thinking about it, I could swear I heard Candace's voice in my head saying, "Go for it, big boy. She's into you." It gave me chills, but maybe it was just my mind telling me it was okay to move on. The whole experience taught me that you never really know someone completely. 5 years of marriage, and I had no idea Candace was capable of what she did. But it also showed me that I'm stronger than I thought, and that there are good people out there willing to help when everything falls apart. I'm doing better now. New job, new perspective, better financial situation thanks to the settlement. Still in therapy, but making progress on trust issues, taking things one day at a time and trying to rebuild my life the right way.